This moment is proudly brought to you by Etosha Gardens. A journey of life. With every drop of water comes life. With every life comes memories. Each memory that is shared creates a legacy to be remembered. Etosha Gardens, your cemetery of choice. Welcome back to the second and final segment of Rufu, Rwakarongeka, proudly brought to you by Etosha Gardens, your cemetery of choice. Still extending discussions in the line with the Master of the High Court of Zimbabwe. We're joined by Mr. Elned Ntasa, and now also looking to some of the areas that some of you have also been quite concerned about when it comes to managing the estate of the deceased, but also at the same time looking at how beneficiaries are directly or indirectly affected by one's passing. Ntasa, once again, appreciating some of the key things that you shared before. Something stuck out that I found rather interesting. The term community of property, chapter 37, I think you had it before earlier on there, as it was previously. I recall a time when it was synonymous to a joke to refer to chapter 37 because it reminded you of what bound you to your spouse, your significant other. Yeah. Let's look at some of the misconceptions. People, what they think is true, but actually isn't, with regards to the term community of property and how it affects beneficiaries from the deceased.
Okay. Yeah, I would say the misconception that the generality of the society has arising from lack of knowledge is that if you enter into a marriage governed by general law, that is to say the 517, the 511, former 511, former chapter 37, they think you are entering into an community of property marriage where we communally own the properties that we acquire. So much that they believe upon the death of the other party, the other partner, I automatically inherit his or her assets and vice versa. So I think it's important that we clarify on that aspect. In community of property, marriage was abolished in Zimbabwe in 1929. Right. And my marriages in Zimbabwe are out of community of property. What it then means is that what is in my name, I own it. And you can't automatically take over upon my death without going through the due process where you get certain percentages and entitlements. Yeah, so the public needs to know that. And we continue encouraging people to write wills. I know there are certain quarters where people discourage those who are in the monogamous marriage. Right. They discourage them against writing wills to say, why should you write a will? If he dies, you take over. If she dies, you take over. And so that's not correct. True. Yeah, that's not correct. What is in my name is in my name. It's mine. So you still need to do the formalities and get the inheritance in accordance with the relevant and applicable formalities. And so we do not have in community of property marriages in Zimbabwe. But other people will have what they call they can have a prenuptial contract or antenuptial contract where they agree that whatever we acquire becomes jointly owned, and they can enjoy access to those assets upon even the death of the other.
I also want to touch on situations where there are lots of, where there's a lot of estates rather, that have over the years remained in the names of the deceased persons because the families have not been able to put the money together to pay for the fees. With regards to the banks, the family sometimes just continues transacting remotely, either from a point of sale machine or ATMs until their accounts are emptied and become dormant. Are there any options for families of those who have little or non-substantive means to explore in the quest to have their estates wound up?
Okay. Yeah. The issue of accessing funds using ATM cards, swipe machines, that's illegal. It's fraud. It's criminal. Because once a person dies, it's only the executor who is permitted by law to continue transacting.
Sure.
And if a beneficiary does that, it borders on criminal activity. So you run the risk of getting arrested.
Right. So quite simply put, if a relative, if the deceased passes away, someone has got access to their mobile money or their bank account. Upon hearing of the passing away, they quickly decide to transfer funds into another account.
It's illegal.
It's illegal.
Yeah, it's criminal. Right. Because what they
even if they're going to pay school fees.
even if it's for fees. Because we are not authorized. Remember, this is not your money.
Even to pay rent?
Even to pay rent. Right. Whose money are we talking about? That's the first question.
Right.
We are talking about Maria deceased. And is it? Yes, we know deceased, there's obligations. Right. Financial obligations to the family and staff. But remember, deceased also is liabilities. And the whole process is aimed at first protecting the creditors, which is why beneficiaries get their dues last. Right. You see? So if you then rush to use this card, suppose it is 20 million, you exhausted the whole 20 million, but there is the company X or individual Y who is owed 17 million or 17, whatever. You see, what then happens? So this person will demand his or her, whatever is owed, from the executor. And the executor, upon checking the accounts, will realize some transactions were done after death.
Right.
You see, so who then becomes liable? It's the person who transacted. And then the next question is, was the person authorized to do so? Did the person have the local stand or the right to be transacting? No. So it creates lots of challenges.
If I could take a leaf from what you've been sharing, Ramtasa, it seems as though that to be able to manage one's estate, one, and I stand guided by you, of course, should live their life ensuring that they do not end up in debt.
Yes.
The less the debt that one has when they're living their life, whatever you have, you can be almost guaranteed can go to those who you're leaving behind.
Exactly. Which is why we are saying, never mind having debts, they keep us going. Right. But make sure your estate has capacity to service them.
I see.
That's where the challenge is. And that's where we have many problems. Estate assets are largely sold because of debts, not because of master's fees. Right. No. I do not recall, ever since I was appointed the master, I think I'm now over 10 years, I don't recall a situation where we said we are authorizing an asset to pay master's fees. No, I don't. Right. You see, but there are other liabilities. So master's fees become just part of the other. If it's the only liability, I will tell you, we will not sanction selling of a house. Right. Especially where that house is providing accommodation to immediate beneficiaries like the spouse and children. We have some mechanisms in place. Yeah, where we have payment plans, among other things. Do you know some beneficiaries actually offer to move out of certain rooms?
Right.
And list them out. And get rentals, which they then use to pay the master's fees. So people will be lying to say it's down to the issue of master's fees.
Yes, you did share when we spoke before about case-by-case scenarios, which you can come up with ways of being able to
Precisely.
manage. Right. Now,
Precisely.
we live in a fairly expansive country. 60% of our population finds itself within the rural areas, the communal lands, for lack of a better term. Access has always been a cause of concern. What is the position around the decentralization of the Master of the High Court with regards to access to the general citizenry, to the average Zimbabwean? Do they have direct access? And how is that being managed?
Yeah, I think we are a work in progress. Currently, we are found in 6 provinces.
Right.
We are found in 6 provinces. We are not yet established in Matabeleland North, Mat South, Mat Central, and Mat East. But the rest, we have master's offices there. But fortunately, we have magistrates who operate as additional assistant masters.
Right.
So much that if death occurs in areas where there is no master's office and the estate is governed by customary law, the affected persons or beneficiaries may approach the nearest magistrate's court for registration of that estate. But it is our desire to be found in every province, every district, and even establish service points within the districts. When we have a district office, but we also within the district office, we can even go further to establish service points for the convenience of the members of the public. Yeah, so we've been getting support from the government in our decentralization drive. The Honorable Minister of Justice himself, the Permanent Secretary, His Excellency, everyone else has been playing his part. We've been receiving support. Just recently, we opened an office in Gweru, that is in the Midlands province. Right. Yes, so it was part of our decentralization efforts, and it's now up and running. Yeah, and we intend to move to Mat North or Mat South, and so on in all provinces. It's a process which we are doing in a structured way. Yes, but we are determined to be found everywhere, because I may not need to overemphasize the fact that death is it's a reality. It's certain. It happens to everyone in every community. So honestly, we cannot be expected to be having just provincial offices. Sure. No, we should go as much deeper as we can, as far wide as we can. Our responsibility is national, if not international, because our documents are used out there. Remember, we have people who are posted outside the country, we have people who work outside the country. Our letters of administration can be used in the UK, can be used in South Africa, can be used in any other country.
And that's quite pertinent, because I guess this program with the Tosha Gardens is also trying to be able to contribute towards being able to let the public know how best to address these particular matters. So in closing, Mtasa, maybe you could be able to share with the public the importance once again of ensuring that one's estate is well organized upon their timely or untimely demise.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very important aspect of this discussion. we want the public to know that the Master's office doesn't perform miracles. Neither does the executor. We are all guided by the law. You may agree with the law, you may disagree with the law. It may be in your favor, it may be against you, but it's the law. We endeavor to do whatever we do, these administration processes, in accordance with the law. We are a government office which is guided by rules and regulations and statutes in its operations. So we've heard people say, master, this, die. Yes, there may be an errant character here and there, but we challenge people to approach us and tell us that we suspect that this is being done improper and things are corrected. But I can tell you, for over the past years, we haven't really had a situation in our office where somebody has done things outside what is required by the law. It's just speculation, sensationalization, and so on. We try to entrench a culture of accountability and transparency. But because I can share with you now that the Ministry of Justice itself is seized with the exercise to review these laws, the inheritance laws. Why? Because they've identified some gaps. Some laws are now archaic. Some laws are now divorced from reality, but they are still there. You see, so if you were following the opening of the parliament, there was mention of the succession laws being reviewed. And also, most importantly, there was the mention of the Administration of Estates Amendment, which seeks to further capacitate the office of the master on the realization by government that this office is a huge responsibility. Dealing with all these states in the country is not a small thing. And not only that, dealing with company liquidations, dealing with corporate rescue, dealing with the guidance fund. You see, so it needs to be capacitated. It needs to operate efficiently and effectively. Like I said, if you die, your accounts are frozen. It means payment of school fees is affected. Payment for health facilities are affected. Food on the table is affected. So if our office is not efficient, because it's the only office which issues authority documents which enable the executor to access those funds. So I think the government realized that, and through cabinet a resolution was made to say this office needs to be capacitated because we deal with the vulnerable, widows, widowers, orphans. When it comes to companies, we are talking of people who have gone for months without getting their pay. You see, we are talking of people who have lost jobs. We are talking of people who are frustrated, investors who put in their money and they didn't realize the benefit. So one or the other, we are dealing with a group of people who are compromised somehow, who are kind of prejudiced in a certain way. So the office really needs to be capacitated. So we are saying to the public out there, let's live responsibly. Let's act responsibly. We have an opportunity to plan our lives. I've often heard people saying, I don't need to have a funeral police because vanoona yekutamba. Honestly, in this time and age, tinoona yekutamba ipi. Topa unozoenda waka usiri mukasket. Wangorerwa zimapuranga zvechiwardrobe chachaora and so on. But is that what you want? Dignity. You see, so we still have a chance to plan our lives and put in place measures that ensure that upon our death, estate liabilities are covered. Haikona kuisira ya bedding ya master kana kuti executor. Ndipo panozonzi vana kuitirwa utsinye mukadzi anzwai, the husband anzwai. It's not about that. I still don't agree. I feel we can do more as a society to act responsibly and plan our lives through either writing wills, creating trusts, among other estate planning methods, even my funeral policies. Do photos in Guaranguti in Shavigwa wakati. Ona. I don't know what one knows Garapasi, towards the end of Mushe. It's a sad as Musha Motel, you go point your views, what's asked. So these myths and so on. Yeah. So my message is simple. Let's act responsibly, let's plan our lives, and let's respect the laws of the country.
Yeah. Mtasa, thank you so much for your time, and I definitely do look forward to speaking to you at great length in future, appreciating some of these complex issues, but I know that your office is open to the public to be able to also address some of the concerns that have been raised in our discussions today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you also for having me.
All right. We're speaking there, of course, to the Master of the High Court of Zimbabwe, Mr. Eldad Mutasa. Thank you so much for joining us here on Rufu Rwakarongeka, proudly brought to you by Tosha Gardens, your cemetery of choice.
This moment was proudly brought to you by Etosha Gardens. A journey of life. With every drop of water comes life. With every life comes memories. Each memory that is shared creates a legacy to be remembered. Etosha Gardens, your cemetery of choice.